嗨，大家好，我是戴淑轩，我来自英国，欢迎回到我的频道。今天的影片是给那些有打算来英国长期住的人，因为我今天想分享我所有关于英国的各种城市的想法。那这当然是我个人的看法，如果你有去过其他好的地方，还是你不同意我的看法，没有关系哦，也可以留言跟我说。So even though the UK isn't that big of a country, it's still kind of difficult to summarize all of the country and where's the best place to live. But I've kind of separated my ideas into a few points. The first thing is the weather. You definitely want to think about the weather if you're going to live in the UK for a long time. It's generally agreed that the south is a good place to live because the weather is a lot better overall. I mean, there are more sunny days throughout the year. So on this graph, you can see I've compared some cities that I believe might be favourable for you to live in, London and Manchester, and you can see the difference in the weather. Higher overall temperature throughout the year in London, more sunny days throughout the year and longer hours of sunshine in those days, and then less rainfall compared to Manchester. So yeah, the weather is definitely something to think about. The east of England is also generally less wet than the west. So the further westward you go towards like Wales, you're definitely going to get some more rain there. I would say that the UK is a place that has something for everyone. You've got cities, you've got the countryside, you've got different cultures, and you've got the sea in some places. So yeah, you can definitely find a place that would be comfortable for you to live in, I think. Just to give you a general idea of the size of the UK, it would take at least a day to drive from Brighton in the south all the way up to Scotland. So yeah, it's definitely not like you can just drive the whole thing in a day. You need several days to do that. So another thing to think about is prices. So you've probably heard that London is a very expensive place to live, and that's definitely true to a certain extent. If you look at this graph, you can see, again, I've compared probably some of your top choices for cities, London, Manchester and Edinburgh. So here you can see that the average price of property in London is just over £600,000 compared to over £200,000 in Manchester. Some of the things that you want to think about are whether there's things to do in the city. There are a lot of places in the UK where there's not really that much to do. Also, don't assume that there'll be good transport links because not all cities do have good transport links here. Another thing to think about is amenities. So bigger cities obviously have more amenities, but then there's more traffic, so there are pros and cons. And then the friendliness of the people in those cities. London is known to be a bit less friendly compared to some places in the north where strangers might talk to you in the street and say, hi, how's it going? But in London, people mostly will just ignore you and get on with their day. Just because people are kind of busy and they've got things to do, and I think that's kind of true for most places in the world. Okay, so now let's go into different regions, and I'm going to try and break this down for you. There is quite a big north-south divide in the UK, and a lot of banter and jokes between people who come from the south and the north, partly because the accent and the culture is a little bit different. So I'll start with the city where I live, which is called Brighton. It's on the south coast by the sea and just an hour on the train to London, so it's technically considered a commuter town. It is definitely a nice place to live and I would recommend it. Brighton is known for being quite a cool and a young city, so lots of students come here and they end up staying. It has a very young feel to it. It's known for being quite quirky. Quirky, this word is kind of difficult to translate. It means kind of cool and edgy, like 文青, but it's sort of like weird and different in a cool way. So people tend to dress a little bit more unusually here. It's also a little bit more hippie and hipster, like all kinds of different fashion trends are happening in Brighton. The price of property is quite expensive. It's almost as much as London these days. It's quite a desirable place to live and the property prices do reflect that. Some other places in the area along the south coast are Eastbourne, which is very nice. The population tends to be a little bit older there. Bournemouth as well is quite nice. The population, again, a little bit older than somewhere like Brighton, but it does have that seaside atmosphere. Southampton, lots going on there. It's a big port city. And then Hastings is quite nice as well. It's also by the sea, sort of similar to Brighton, but a bit smaller. Possibly a little bit far from London. If you were commuting from Hastings to London, that's going to take you more like 2 hours one way. So I think another thing that you definitely want to think about is, do you want to live in London? London is an amazing place to live. There's so much going on, loads to do, like different culture. And if you're used to living in a big city, then London is probably somewhere for you. If you just have a job in London and you don't want to live in the city, then you definitely want to think about the transport links to London. And anywhere that has decent connections to London and is considered a commuter town town will have more expensive property there. Some examples are Cambridge, which is as expensive as Brighton, Tunbridge Wells, Oxford, Sevenoaks. These places are pretty pricey. And then Guildford, which is all right, maybe not so much to do there. And then Stevenage, which is a little bit less expensive and has a lot of new builds, that kind of vibe. So coming back to London, again, there's a north-south divide with London, and I've heard that the people who live north of the river are kind of unlikely to cross paths with people in the south of the river. It's quite an effort, I hear, to travel across the river to go see your friend. So you want to decide which side of the river you want to live in. North of the river has stereotypically been a bit nicer and it's very varied, loads of stuff to do there. But south of the river is also becoming more up and coming, and there's quite a lot of cool places there. Now, if you've got loads of money to spare, then you could maybe afford to live in some super nice areas in London, like Hampstead, Highgate, Islington, Chiswick, which is a bit further west. And then even further west than that, you have Twickenham. And then some famous places in South London are Brixton, which is a bit more, how do we say, grimy? Like there's a lot of young people there, it's quite fashionable and less polished. Kind of difficult to describe, but it's quite cool. And then also Richmond, which is pretty expensive and is way out west, but south of the river. Okay, so that's my super quick summary of London. Obviously there's loads more to say about it, and I haven't lived there for a very long time myself, so I'm not the most familiar with London. I imagine that a lot of you will want to live there because it's the most happening and exciting place in the UK. Now, talking about other big towns outside of London, the biggest ones are Birmingham, which is in the Midlands. Not bad, quite a nice town. They're building a high-speed rail between Birmingham and London, so that should make the transport connections quicker there. Manchester, again, similar to London, maybe more students than anywhere else, loads of students in Manchester. Liverpool, which I personally quite like, it's by the sea and there's loads of really nice buildings there. And Leeds, which again is very studenty and it's post-industrial, so that means that the buildings feel a bit more industrial there. Some smaller cities, which will be maybe a bit less exciting but better value for money, are Sheffield, Newcastle, Nottingham, York, which is quite quaint and very small, and Norwich, which is quite a nice place. So these places are all quite easy to get around, but they don't have great transport links, not compared to London. Some other towns that are worth mentioning, but are university towns, so are generally more expensive, are Oxford, Bristol, Bath, Exeter, and Cardiff. Bristol, which is a student town, very quirky, similar to Brighton, like lots of young people and interesting fashion going on. Bath is a historic Georgian town with lots of Roman baths. One of the best tourist attractions I've been to is actually the Roman baths. It's really cool. Cardiff is pretty nice, but potentially somewhere you'd rather go on holiday than live for a long time. I'm just going to whiz down from the north now. The most north, we've obviously got Scotland. Edinburgh is a great city. If I didn't live in Brighton, I'd definitely live in Edinburgh. Anyone I know who's gone there for university has ended up staying there, so that says something about the city. It's a good place to live. Lots of culture, things going on. For that reason, it is pretty expensive compared to the rest of Scotland. And if you don't mind there being not much to do apart from outdoors stuff like scenery, walks, hiking, then go and live in Scotland. It's super cheap, you'll get good value for money. The other big city is Glasgow, which is a little bit more not as classy as Edinburgh maybe, but it is quite up and coming. Some people like it, some people don't. Coming a bit more south now, we've got Durham, which is really great for students, but it's very small. Newcastle is a great city, bit cold, great for young people, lots to do, very entertaining. And we've got loads of other cities in the north and the Midlands that are quite ethnically diverse, apart from London. So obviously London has a huge variety of cultures there. Some other very ethnically diverse cities are Leicester, Derby, Nottingham, Northampton. In the west and the north, we've got the Isle of Man. Difficult to live there for various tax reasons, so I'm not going to mention that one. Same with the Channel Islands like Jersey and Guernsey. There are special tax arrangements there which make it difficult to live there as a long-term resident. The Isle of Wight, which is an island in the south, I think you can live there relatively easily. Then we've got the Cotswolds, which is not a bad place to live. A little bit expensive, but some nice Georgian Yellowstone villages. Yeah, and very close to the countryside over there. Cheltenham is also famous for, there's the race course and the racing that happens every year. There's a famous girls' school in Cheltenham, but that's completely another topic about schools and where those are. And then even more west, we've got Dorset, which is like lots of farms and older people. And then Exeter, which is a pretty cool place. Not much ethnic diversity in Exeter. If you go even more west, there are lovely beaches in Cornwall, possibly in more of a holiday destination. I wouldn't necessarily live there myself just because it's quite far away, maybe not so much to do there. You will find that more people come in the summer because it's a very seasonal holiday destination. And then in the west, we've also got Wales, which is obviously very famous for having lovely mountainous countryside, a lot of sheep, maybe not that much else to do. The weather can be pretty unreliable there. One of the big cities, which is also a student city in Wales, is Cardiff, which is quite nice to visit. Potentially a higher crime rate there. That's not necessarily something I would think about when choosing a place to live, but yeah, you might want to research the crime rate for these places. In the east, we've got Norwich, as I said, a student town, a bit less ethnically diverse there, but very lovely place to live. Canterbury in Kent is a very small historic place. And then Dover, Wouldn't really recommend living there particularly. It's more of a seaport, so not much going on there apart from sea links, travel connections to France. And then last but not least, Northern Ireland. So I haven't actually been there myself, but I hear that the culture is very nice, with friendly people. There was quite a difficult history over in Northern Ireland. If you want to go deep into the history of Ireland, you can sign up to my subscription program where I've got a class about Irish history and culture. But there has been a lot of immigration there recently, and Belfast is quite an up and coming city. So yeah, that's my quick summary, my whiz through of all the best places to live in the UK. If you feel like I've missed something out, if there's like a city that you really love, then definitely let me know in the comments. There are definitely some hidden gems, and I'm a firm believer in going off the beaten path. So yeah, I'm still learning and discovering about this country. There are loads of places that I haven't been. So yeah, I hope you found this useful. If you're planning to come and live here, now you get a bit of a sense of what's going on in different parts of the country. 谢谢收看，我是袋鼠轩，我们下次见喽。